इससे समझाओ।
विन ग्रिप टेक्नोलॉजी को जिस तरह सीमेंट को ग्रिप करता है बिल्कुल टाइट।
SRMB TMT चैंपियंस की पसंद।
Well, it's Norman Koshnick here from Extra Time. And again, let's be honest, fitting of a final. Very much final-like in its makeup. Two sides that really went hammer and tongs. Incredible batting from AB de Villiers. Very much incredible batting from Hetmeyar and Pant to an extent. And even though Pant was a little bit off today, he almost won the match for them. Amazing. I mean, Delhi Capitals have lost this match by 1 run with the score 170 against 171. But they didn't really truly lose, in my opinion. They performed particularly well. I'm joined again to start this after the match here by Siddharth and Naresh. How are you both?
Hello, Norman. Good evening from an early good morning to you.
I'm still breathing.
I mean, really, it comes down to who bowled the better last over. Steiner's 23 was pretty atrocious. Why he would bowl a bowler his first over as his last over the match is beyond me. Really, Amit Mishra should have been given the ball, quite frankly, for that last over. If he was available. Who bowled the other end before Steiners? Who bowled the other end? Who bowled the 19th? Can you remember?
Avesh Khan.
Avesh, I think, yeah.
Yeah, Avesh Khan and Rabada bowled the 18th, 19th, yeah.
Yes. 18th and 19th, yep. It was Rabada and Avesh.
So I would have still bowled Mishra. Even though it was a calculation mistake, I would have still bowled him because I think he would have went for less than 23. Pretty much sure of that. And then Siraj was very impressive in the last couple of deliveries, he for 4, but his first 3-4 deliveries were on mark. He was particularly good. Siraj was given the ball again. Why was Daniel Sams only bowled for 2 overs? Chahal for 2. Some interesting tactics. I thought Daniel Sams bowled well those first few overs. I think that was an important start. But overall, the bowling was quite admirable. Both teams did not fire early on, and it took their later batsmen to really come to the fore. I mean, at one stage, I thought RCB were gone. I thought they were going to be very much a low score. But AB de Villiers, seriously. And again, his performance was, he will probably be man of the match, I would argue. AB de Villiers had to be man of the match. What a game, guys. That was fitting of a final, don't you think? Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's fitting enough that, the team that has won has gone up as number 1 on the point table. So this is going to be a close one going ahead. The way CSK, RCB and Delhi have so far played these games, 5 to 6 games of theirs, I think it's going to get more and more intense going ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do think we've seen 2 of the finalists here. Maybe CSK might be involved, but it's really these 2 and CSK. Mumbai Indians will find it hard, even though on paper they're very good. They might scrape into the top 4, but really that's the sum total of it. I think that these 2 teams are the ones we're going to see play the final. And imagine Rishabh Pant was a bit off today, and he still scored 58. He was off. He wasn't at his best.
Yes.
So that really a normal Rishabh Pant in this performance would have perhaps won the game with a great deal of effort. Hetmeyar stole the show, but batted very, very well. Now, Delhi Capitals have got that extra factor now in Hetmeyar, for sure, haven't they?
Yes,
they're very, very impressive. And look, Darwan and Smith failed. In particular, Darwin failed. I thought that was where they probably lacked a bit of run as well. But look, this was a great match, worthy of a final. Let's break it down a bit further. Okay, Siddharth, your thoughts on how you saw the match?
Okay, so I have not, my hair hasn't grayed, luckily. I mean, it was such an ebbing and flowing match. I mean, we thought RCB would get bundled out for 130, 140, they were restricted by. But the freak, Mr. 360, give him any pitch, give him any attack. Even at this time, as I say, South Africa better keep their ears and eyes and every sense open. You don't pick him in the World T20, you've had it. What batting! Yet again, calculated. He pounced on Rishabh Pant's misjudgment. Yet again, you're seeing 2 matches, 2 misjudgments. Delhi Capitals have paid the price for it. Stoinis bowling that last over made no sense whatsoever. 23 runs. Those 23 runs were so crucial. Delhi Capitals did not give up. And even RCB, they also suffered their old problem of death overs bowling. Every nightmare that was to be repeated was repeated. Kyle Jamieson, as I have said, Jamieson is your power play bowler. He is not your death bowler. He's that kind of a bowler who will give you bounce. He'll bowl in the length 128 when the ball is nipping around a bit. But he's not a death bowler. They paid the price almost when it happened in 2012 and 2013. 28 runs, Virat Kohli bowled against CSK. Was it for 28 runs? He had 21 runs. 16 runs were needed. But Royal Challengers Bangalore's 3 close matches have helped them in this match as well. I mean, look at Sunrisers Hyderabad. They defended. They won by 6 runs. They also did well against Mumbai Indians, so that helped them build that pressure that, yes, we can cope up with it. Now, Siraj's 3 balls really made things hard. 10 runs of 2. You needed a Javed Miandad. You needed MS Dhoni. Rishabh Pant, yes, it is his year. 2021 has been the year of Rishabh Pant, but was too much for him. So well-deserved victors, but necessarily DC will not get deflated by it. Maybe that one decision of 23 runs in the final over, that caused them.
Yeah.
Well, and again, this is crucial for DC's development into the finals. Even though they lost, it's better having this game now and learning from it than say perhaps winning today and doing this in the final. I still feel very strongly about DC. I still believe that they're going to be there and make a fist of it. Look, it's funny. Siraj bowled the last over and got away with it, bowling quite well. But his economy rate for the entire innings was the worst of all the bowlers. A bit bizarre, actually, when you think about it. Would you put your bowler on that's got the worst economy rate in the last over? You wouldn't necessarily. Daniel Sams was a key person today. I think that his inclusion has helped RCB, and I hope he stays in the team. Although Dan Christian, you know what I think about him. We have to be looking at the 2 teams that's going to be in the final. I truly believe that. Even though CSK are there, yes, they're worthy of the top 3. I still think these 2 sides are the ones that are going to be there.
It'll be a great final if that happens. You'll at least have a first-time winner. At least you'll have that.
How exciting will that be?
Yeah.
That'll be extremely exciting.
Absolutely.
Norman, I want to add the point on Siraj, which you mentioned on Mohammad Siraj. What Siddharth was mentioning, it is the year of Rishabh Pant. We can leave the economy rate aside. Even Mohammad Siraj for last 4 to 5 months is on a high from the Australia tour. He's full of confidence, and I think Virat wants to use that confidence to build his confidence more. You know, he gave him the ball to bowl the last over, which definitely he felt that he could deliver for Virat Kohli, because as Siddharth said, Jamieson new to these conditions to bowl in the death. Harshal Patel, he kind of protected him by not giving the last, because the last match was bad for him. But, you know, he has utilized these bowlers very well. If you see Virat Kohli, Harshal Patel still will be high on confidence, though he bowled the 19th over. But Siraj was used very well. So I think they're full of confidence. The issues that they have been having in the past, it seems to be getting addressed in this tournament as it progresses.
But narration, Norman, I would like to add one more thing. You're talking about Mohammad Siraj's economy rate. I think he just gave away 6 runs in the first 4 balls. The job was done.
Yeah.
Thankfully. Yeah. I think rest of the other things can take a back seat. But the 3rd ball Yorker, which was dug back to him, I think that built up the pressure and they just couldn't cope up with it.
It's funny. I still can't get over the fact that Rishabh Pant looked off in his whole innings. But if you look at his innings, he almost pulled it off. What I'm getting at there is, if Pant explodes the way we know he can, and Hetmeyar did what he did, they would have won it with a canter. There's so many twists and turns about this performance. Marcus Stoinis was disappointing, really. 23 off 1 over, and his batting could have been crucial, but didn't really quite get there. Is it more the bowling or is it more the batting that went about that last bit? Can we say it was the bowling of RCB that won them the match towards the end, or was it the batting that failed Delhi? Can you answer that question for me? How would you, forgetting de Villiers' score for a moment, the reality is that Punt and the like really, a bit like the English. English are pretty hopeless. Oh, sorry, Chris. I didn't see you there. Sorry, Chris. I was talking about England. I was saying how bad the English were. And no, I didn't mean to say that in front of you. Didn't know you were coming, Chris. Thank you. Chris Vernon, well, welcome for joining us. We need a bit of an English player. Did any England players play in this match?
No.
So what are you doing here, Chris? Nobody from England played. Nobody was good enough from England to play for these two teams.
No, they all played for the Mumbai, for the Royals, CSK, all the other sides. So
yeah, but the best two teams in the comp clearly don't need an Englishman. That's a major factor. Did you think of that, Sadat? I think I've had a brainwave. That's magnificent. Not one single.
I think after the performance of Marcus Stoinis, they may well want to get Chris Woakes back in the mix.
Oh, Chris Woakes plays. Yeah, that's right. Woakes is there. And he did well in the first few games, didn't he?
He's done, in the couple of games he did well. In Wankhede, he was really bowling well. Yeah.
Siddharth, now you've blown it. Now Chris has got something to say about England. Now he's going to say it's because they didn't have an English player that they lost. That's the logic of that question, seriously.
I think Chris can revert back to you and say it's because of an Aussie that Delhi Capitals lost today, Marcus Stoinis.
Okay. But then the Indian players were the ones that really had to take on themselves. But a South African did it. So we're losing the plot here. Okay. The fact is that A.B. de Villiers, which is actually Chris Vernon's favourite player, to be honest, has won the game today. Would you say he's player of the match, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, his innings changed the game, especially that last over. I felt a bit sorry for Marcus Stoinis, really. I mean, you don't bowl in the whole game and you get chucked the ball probably without much notice. I don't think Rishabh Pant had his best game at all with captaincy or with the bat, really. I know he got some runs, but I think you're always disappointed when you lose by 1 run, having only lost 4 wickets, and the guy came in at the end and got 50 odd off 20 balls. So to leave Stoinis the last over to arguably the best player in the world in form, or when he's got anyone 50 not out in world cricket with an over to go, A.B. de Villiers is probably the man that you want stood with bat in hand. So I question why they didn't get Mishra bowled out earlier and leave Rabada maybe with the last over, or leave Ishant Sharma with the last over, or one of your finishing bowlers. So I think it's pretty tough to point the finger at Stoinis, on the bowling. I think a lot of blokes would have been hitting that over by A.B. de Villiers in that kind of mood.
Would you have bowled Mishra in the last over, Chris?
I don't think I would have done, but I would have bowled him out maybe in the 10th to 12th over. There was if you're going to go in with 5 bowlers and that Mishra is your strike, him and Xtra are your 2 spinners, then you don't want to leave an over. Maybe he was trying to get de Villiers out, and that's why he bowled those guys out and said, well, I think if de Villiers wasn't there, then maybe Mishra would have bowled the last over. But I just think maybe just a little bit of naivety there with the captaincy. And he's a young lad new to the captaincy, and they all make mistakes. I don't think anyone's questioning or saying it was a shocker. I just think that maybe there's a few things to learn today from Pant and the captaincy.
But it's the time to learn in a game which doesn't count. It's not in the playoffs at the moment.
They all count. I think arguably you only ever learn in games that count, though, don't you? Otherwise, if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. So.
Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't count completely, but comparatively, you prefer to lose this one in a playoff game, correct?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All right. Naresh, have you met Chris Vernon before? I don't know whether have you met each other? Yeah.
No, I haven't. Hello.
I don't think so,
no. First time, yeah.
And have you met Siddharth?
I don't think I have, no.
I have met Siddharth.
Oh.
I haven't met Chris. So, hi, Chris.
Chris.
Oh, yeah. Nice to meet you.
We're introducing after talking. All right. So, look, the reality is that we were joined by the Bharat Army through Naresh. We're joined by the Barmy Army, you could argue, from Chris Vernon. Maybe you could be a Barmy Army representative. And Siraj just Barmy. So that's all we hear. So all right, so we'll continue on. Look, okay. Where do we conclude? What comes out of this? What will both teams learn from this? Obviously, RCB are happy they've won, but just. And obviously, Delhi Capitals have lost. Just. What would we be learning? What can we take out of this game if we were both Ponting and, say, Simon Caddis? I mentioned a lot of times about the bench and watching the bench. Simon Caddis was smiling. He doesn't normally smile that much. He was smiling quite a bit. So I think he was very proud of his team, actually, the way they came through this. Very much proud. Whereas Ponting would be probably bitterly disappointed, in a way, that they didn't finish this off. That's my summary. But in terms of Naresh, what do you think that the teams will take out of this moving forward?
Definitely, like it happened against CSK, it was the last over that really Delhi missed the plan there. Amit Mishra bowled 7th, 9th, and 11th. So he was left behind and not utilized fully, or was he not fit to bowl his last over? That should have been addressed early, and maybe Stoinis should have been got around the 15-16, because AB de Villiers was waiting for those kind of overs. Amit Mishra was hit only for 1/6 by AB. So that one miscalculation definitely for Rishabh Pant to take it, that he has to keep at least one of his main strike bowlers till the death. How Bolt and Bumrah are getting utilized by Rohit Sharma. That's one learning on how to utilize his strike bowlers. If you see, it is Delhi's batting which let them down today. Harshad Patel's 2 wickets, Prithvi Shaw and Stoinis, way outside the off stump, they went for those shots and gave an edge. I think the only one was Siraj getting Smith. That was a real good delivery. Otherwise, it was something which, if they had even left it, they would have still been there to score ahead. A little bit of ordinary as well as pressure of the scoreboard was there in the chase. Hetmeyar got this opportunity and he made the best of it. We don't see him regularly in the playing 11, but he made a point for himself. Stoinis plays a role of a finisher, but I think Hetmeyar has joined him well in this game. That's a big learning for Delhi, and I think he should be utilized more. If required, float him, get him at 3 instead of Smith. They have that option to do that. If they want to get in Wokes, they probably may not be playing Smith going ahead. We'll have to see that.
Chris, go ahead.
No, we say that it was a close game. I think it flattered Delhi, really. I'm an RCB fan, and Norman knows this, but I think if you look at the score, win by 1 run, you think it was a closer game than it was. I think that Delhi did well to get that close, but I think RCB looked pretty comfortable, probably from sort of 7 or 8 overs into the innings. Really, I know that Hetmeyar tried his best, but I never once thought Delhi were going to win that game after maybe the power play. And I know that Hetmeyar played a brilliant innings, but maybe it just flattered slightly the score. I look at Delhi's side and I just don't know. I just don't see how they can win it with that batting lineup. You've got Axar Patel at 7 and Rabada at 8. Rabada is probably a 10 at bet. He can bat, but you don't want him coming in at 8. So they seem to have a lot. And let's be honest, Darwan, pretty sure, are very, very good. But you would say that Pant, Stoinis, and Hetmeyar in the middle are inconsistent. Good players, but they're not a Maxwell de Villiers combination. They're not scoring 50s every other game. They're much more inconsistent, especially Hetmeyar and Stoinis. So,
I do like when an Englishman's kept quiet during a presentation. I like that. No, Chris is a very good judge. He's being a bit damning on Delhi, and I can understand that. But you can't say that if the score flattered Delhi. I don't agree. I mean, realistically, they had no chance 4 or 5 overs to go. They looked like they were in, or maybe 5 overs. They looked like they had no chance. But they still went very, very, very close. Punt's extremely crucial to this team. We know that. As is probably AB de Villiers as well. I mean, if AB de Villiers had fallen, they would have gone nowhere near the score.
Sorry, guys, my internet's been weird last week, so
That's okay, Chris. Your points were very relevant. I was just saying in countering what you said, if De Villiers got out cheaply today, what would have happened then?
well, I mean, you can say that in any game, can't you? I mean, any game that if the best player or high score gets out, then
no, but hang on. You did say that Delhi looked less likely to bat well, but quite frankly, RCB without De Villiers at the moment are certainly fragile as well.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at them as a top 5 batting unit, I reckon they're probably the best, highest aggregate scoring side. You know, Padikal's got 100, Cody's got a 70 odd, Maxwell's got 250s. You know, they're all scoring runs. You know, if you look at Delhi, it's basically been Darwan. You know, Shaw's had a couple of starts, Smith's not done a lot, Hetmeyar and Pant. You know, Pant's had a couple of 50s, and if you look at the other sides, are similar. They've got 1 or 2 guys that score runs, but you know, in terms of depth, you know, RCB, you know, Dan Christian's played a few games. You know, you've got him, Daniel Sams, you've got Carl Jamieson coming in at 9 in some games. You know, that's the depth that, you know, that they offer there. So my point with Delhi is that I just look at that batting lineup and think, is that a strong enough batting lineup consistently all the way down to take on a Mumbai Indians or an RCB in full flight? You know, on their day, of course, they're going to win because a Pant can come off or a Hetmeyar can do what he did today, but consistently over a tournament, you know, and that may be why they'll look to Wokes. Maybe they'll go back to Wokes and try and work their team out that way. But look, RCB's batting lineup certainly looks a lot deeper than most, and they're all in form at the moment. You know, they've all scored runs. So, and the guy who came in today, Patidar, looked like he can bat as well. He got a decent 30 quite quickly and just set it up for De Villiers at the end.
See, I think Chris is forgetting the fact that Royal Challengers Bangalore, the word Royal doesn't necessarily imply England, but you may want to think that.
But just want to add, Norman, on one point on Chris. Just 1 point on Chris's lineup for RCB. The number 3 still is fragile. They have played 3 batsmen at number 3 in these 6 games. Patidar started 2 games. He was dropped. Then Shehbaz Ahmed was tried. Then Washington Sundar. And today Patidar has come back. So they cannot leave number 3 so fragile with so many changes. They're 3 in 6 games. Today's inning will definitely give confidence to the entire management and Virat Kohli. Patidar should be given a long run if he needs to play at number 3 constantly.
I think that it's worked so far because of I completely agree, but it's been masked over by how good Maxwell and De Villiers have been finishing. I think De Villiers has batted 4 times, has got 270 not outs and a 46, and Maxwell's done, you know, had good scores. So it's been masked a bit, but I agree. And you know, we were speaking. It's interesting when you look at the auctions and. You know, you'd have thought someone like David Malan, who sat on the bench at Punjab, not doing anything, in a poor, struggling side. You know, and RCB only played 3 overseas. The last overseas slot is, you know, certainly up for grabs. You think that, you know, how good would David Malan been in the number 3? You know, in the RCB batting lineup. Imagine that as a top 5. So, you know, maybe that's something that RCB will look at going forward for next year, or because I think that's the slot. You know, it's a bowling slot, and that number 3 that is up for grabs. But while Maxwell and De Villiers are going so well, then I guess they won't be so worried about it. If that makes sense.
It's interesting. We've got, if you look at the stats of 6s, I think Siddharth, you were talking about it earlier. Rishabh Pant in his 6. RCB scored a total of 9 6s as opposed to Delhi's 4, which to me is telling, very telling. Is that more the batters didn't quite get a hold of the balls, or was it good bowling on behalf of RCB? You would argue that Siraj's last over, he went for a few, but there were no 6s. And there was discussion on commentary about the perfect field placements of Kohli in that last over. That favourite shot of Punt's was actually a person was right there for that. That is interesting because had Pant hit the ball left or right, it was 4, wasn't it?
Yep. I would just say one thing. The RCB bowlers today mixed their lengths up brilliantly to Pant. They bowled the back of the length. They bowled the wide Yorker. They mixed the lengths up beautifully. So Pant didn't have a chance to hit those sixes that he's famous for. That's one. Second, all those 4 sixes that you saw came in the final 2-3 overs. There was none hit in the power play, none in the middle overs. Absolutely. So this would seem to suggest RCB bowled much better. The lengths were spot on. And you saw the execution, what they did. But again, what got them in the contest? The decision of Kohli to bowl Jameson in the death. He should have bowled Jameson out in the power play in the middle stages and gotten someone else to do that. Delhi Capitals were anyway playing catch-up right from the first over itself because you lost Dhawan, your orange cap winner, and you lost Prithvi Shaw also cheaply. From that point on, they're playing catch-up. Only when Jameson bowled did they have a chance. 59 of 24, it boiled down to 33 of 18. Big difference.
So before the match, if you would have sat Kohli and Pant down and asked them both who was going to bowl your last over for you, what do you think would have been said? Would Kohli have said Siraj, and what would Pant have said? Is my interesting question.
Ideally, Pant should have bowled Rabada. Ideally.
Rabada, yeah.
Because Rabada would have gotten a measure of AB de Villiers. He knows what are his weaknesses and strengths. But yet again, the miscalculation. You bowled Rabada out, you bowled Ishant out. Mishra would have been a risk, but yet AB de Villiers has a slight weakness against leg spin. But he was in that zone. He could have hit any bowler out of the park. But Rabada was your best bet. But that was the miscalculation. Maybe Pant tried to throw RCB off guard, but it didn't work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Many things don't work against AB de Villiers, by the way.
Yeah, AB de Villiers doesn't really matter, does it? He'll hit anyone. But I would like to support Pant here and say it may not have been a miscalculation. Rather, he went for it early to try and thwart potentially what de Villiers was doing and not wait till the last over to do it. So in giving him some credit, he made a risky attempt to stop him mid-stride and it didn't work. Rather than, I've miscalculated, I'll throw another bowler in at last. I think that maybe, and if that was the case, if he did attempt to get rid of him earlier, then you can't knock Pant for that. You can't knock him for that. You have to give him some credit rather than saying, oh my God, I've stuffed the last over. Maybe he said, right, I know what I'm doing. I'm trying to knock him off early. If that's the case, you can't knock Pant. It was an attempt to thwart a bloke, and you got to give him credit for that rather than not. So goes back to my question. What do they say before the match? Who would have been their death bowler is the question. And I think that may explain a lot.
I think what happened is they never expected AB de Villiers to stick on that long. Let's be honest about it. They had gotten Axar, they had gotten Mishra to counter de Villiers in the middle overs. He played them out brilliantly. So I would, even if you had gotten Rabada in, I think AB de Villiers would still have made an impact.
Yeah.
I guess it's the genius of the guy. Any bowler at that time, he hung until the end. He said, oh, now I've got this bowler on, and he delivered. The bowler delivered the right slots. AB dispatched him out of the stadium. Simple. I think AB de Villiers is responsible for RCB's brilliant win. There's no doubt about it. We can argue captaincy miss and everything else, but he tried to take de Villiers' wicket early. It didn't work. He hung in, he capitalized and took the game away. The genius of ABD.
Chris, okay, you're a little bit damning on Delhi. You're very supportive of RCB. But are we looking at the two teams that will make the final? Chris doesn't want to answer that question, does he? He doesn't want to answer that question. He's avoiding that question. He's deliberately playing, I've got an internet problem to avoid my questions. I know Chris's tactics. He's avoiding it. He's gone away and having a think off the, what am I going to say to that Norman's question? I think, no, I'm joking. It's not quite like that. Naresh, don't you do that. I'm going to ask you the same question. Are these two the finalists? Do not have an internet problem. What's your answer?
They are top 4. As of now, I'll stick to top 4.
Not even top 3?
Top 3 could be top 3, yeah. They're currently top 2. It could be top 3. But, yeah, one of them could be the finalist. The way they're played today, yeah, they're giving those hints that they are really in good touch. One of them could be finalist, but too early to say that both of them would be in finals.
But hang on. You're being very conservative saying both would be top four. Both would be finalists. Are they
No,
capable
both
of
won't be
winning?
final. I'm not saying both are finalists now. It's too early. One of them could be the finalist, but they're definitely the top four, both of them.
How about a winner, though? Naresh, you're going around in circles. I asked you a specific question. Why are you not answering? Are one of these two teams capable of winning?
Definitely.
Okay.
What we have seen so far in these, say, about 2 weeks plus, RCB, CSK, Delhi are the three who are looking that one of them can go all the way and win. But it's too early to say who the finalists are. That's why, yeah, the top four, these three look very good for top four.
Okay. And Delhi has lost two close ones against two of the top sides, which will frustrate them. But again, it's better to do that now than later.
They also won a couple. They've won a close one. They won the Super Over. When Warner just had a mind fade. One short. He ran one short. He didn't send Johnny Bairstow out. So they've also had a couple of close ones that they've come out on the good side of. Sorry, my internet went again. I'm not damning on Delhi. I don't think this side that they played today can win the tournament. I don't see this side being good enough compared to a Mumbai Indians, even Chennai on form, on RCB. Unless someone has a really good game, I just don't see the current. And they've got Norkie can come back, they've got Wokes can come back. I don't know if there's any young good Indian batsmen that they've got there, because looking at their batting lineup, I'm not sure how much Steve Smith adds to a 2020 batting lineup. He's a quality player, but are you better off bringing in a young Indian talent who gives it a whack and is a good player, and then bringing a Chris Wokes in to really strengthen the bowling? It's something they might look to do. So I think I'd be surprised if we don't see both of these sides in the top four. And then, as Naresh said, it's anyone can beat anyone.
I'm reminiscing a bit, Chris, because you're back in the room where we first started. You haven't been in that room for a while, actually. You've been normally, is it downstairs in the dark room?
My brother's come back home for a few days, so I'm back in my other room. So
you're in the pecking order. You get the worst room, do you, when your brother's back?
No, just had to move my laptop. That's all.
Okay, all right. But we've still got Siddharth in the snow. Are you ever going to leave the snow? You got the snow background permanently? I'm not sure. All right.
I'm trying to psychologically keep myself cool. It's 43 degrees today here, so it's terrible.
Really?
Yeah. There's summers here in full flow in Delhi, and it's terrible. Believe me.
Well, as you can see, I'm in a jacket. I'm freezing myself silly here.
Can I ask Siddharth a question on the IPL if he's in Delhi?
Sure.
Can we expect some better wickets in Delhi than we've had at Chennai and the yesterday at the Modi Stadium? I'd say the wickets have been not exactly what we'd like to see in an IPL season. Flat, lots of runs being scored. So, are we expecting to see lots of runs at Delhi? Hopefully.
No, Chris. Unfortunately, I have to say that it's not possible, because the Arun Jaitley Stadium wicket is slow, low, and scoring runs has always been an issue in Delhi. And problem is the weather will be incredibly hot. Tomorrow it's Chennai Sunrisers Hyderabad. They will pack their team with spinners and it'll be very, very difficult. Maybe if the dew factor sets in, which it will, then we might see a high-scoring game. But Delhi is not known for high-scoring games. 150, 160, that's about it. Delhi, the pitch at the Arun Jaitley Stadium here is like the Hyderabad one. Slow, low turners, and you'll get a slow burner tension games, low scoring thrillers.
Frustrating. Very frustrating.
I think the best wicket in the entire IPL is Wankhede and potentially Eden Gardens. These two. You'll see high scores there. Bowlers and batsmen both will get purchased.
And they're playing some in Bangalore also. That will also help.
Oh,
Bangalore's
yes.
Ground is small. Yeah. They're playing some games in Bangalore. Yeah. Chinnaswamy.
Sorry to interrupt, Norman, but in Chinnaswamy, what has happened is they had installed a subsurface aeration system at the ground, because Bangalore used to be so poor in drainage, and because of the rains there, they had to install a state-of-the-art drainage system there. Now, because of that installation, the entire dynamics of the pitch and the outfield have changed. You no longer get about 200, 220, 180, 190 there. It's now boiled down to 150, 170. Because the nature of the wicket has changed. It's become slower. That's the problem in Chinnaswamy.
Yeah, look, taking pitches out of the discussion for a moment, because both teams, and I'll maintain this, whether it's slow, high, low, whatever, it doesn't matter what you want to call it, both teams are in the same boat. So we really can't tell that's going to decide the series. There'll be more decided on the team on the day, how they perform, bat and ball. So,
the problem is, Norman, I disagree with you somewhat there, because if you look at last night, for example, it was clearly quite a difficult wicket, Murray. If you saw the dew factor in the second innings, it was literally, the outfield was drenched. You know, if you saw one of the balls running, it was literally water just flicking up all over the place. So the pitch actually comes easier to bat on those wickets, because it just puts a bit more zip. And, you know, Kolkata started iffy, but, you know, Morgan made it look pretty easy in the end. So I would say that if the wickets are going to be slow, then the toss becomes massive, and you won't see sides winning the toss and batting first in these evening games. It will be all chase, because it literally is worth 20, 30 runs chasing. And, you know, even today, I think that Rishabh Pant obviously won the toss and chased. You think maybe he just got the dew factor? He misread it. It's an impossible thing to read, but obviously he might have looked at last night, and I think it was the same wicket, a used wicket, and he might have thought if the dew comes down like it did, they probably would have won it quite comfortably. So on these difficult wickets, you know, the dew factor, it could basically decide the game. It could be a game on the toss.
okay. Siddharth?
Yeah, I think, you know, what might have thrown Delhi Capitals' plan awry, I think it was the sandstorm. The sandstorm meant that there was not much of dew. So probably the bowlers, I mean, it would have been difficult for the spinners and everybody to grip it. But as you saw, there was not much of dew as compared to the previous game. So the pace bowlers could maintain their discipline. They bowled well. And I think that threw Delhi Capitals' plans awry. That sandstorm for 20 minutes, that's the key factor, because it's dry. It's like the typical Ahmedabad dust storm. It's sudden and it just descends upon you. And it's deadly. So that might have eliminated all the dew. Might have been one factor.
Okay. Look, we've talked about Delhi not being that good and RCB on song somewhat. They still were 1 run separated. So it could have easily have been, Chris, what would your thoughts have been had Pant hit the last ball for 6 and won the match? What would you have said differently now? Would you have said Delhi don't look like they can win, or what would you have said? We're talking about one.
I'd have said the same thing. I would have sit here and said that Shermon Hetmeyar got his side out of trouble. You know, he's the reason that Delhi got anywhere near that total. You know, and the commentator said after the game, it's a shame when you hit 50 odd off 20 balls and you lose. You know, these innings don't come around often, and when you play them, you want to be winning the game. So, yeah, I would still say the same thing. You know, whether or not it's RCB look pretty. You know, I think Kohli would like to be a little bit more consistent at the top. I know he's had a couple of scores, but you know, of the top of the 4 main guys there, he's probably been the most disappointing so far. I'm not saying he has been disappointing, but you know, Padikal, Maxwell, and de Villiers have probably outscored him so far. And you know, Delhi are a decent side. I just think that I look at their depth. I think their side just looks a bit oddly balanced at the moment, and they're still probably trying to work out what the right shape is. I just think they're missing a batter in there. But no, if they'd have won, I would have still said that Shermon Hetmeyar, hats off to you. You've pulled your side out of it.
Ishant Sharma, all of you, comment on Ishant Sharma today. First game back.
Bowled well, didn't he?
He did. I was actually quietly impressed. I didn't expect him to bowl this well. I actually thought he might be a little bit rusty, and admirably so, but he actually was on song. And at his age, very impressive, I thought. And could be an important inclusion as the finals come along.
Yeah, very surprising.
And a wicket maiden. That was the wicket he got off Padikal. That over was a wicket maiden, yeah.
So could he be the tonic for Delhi? Could he be important?
Don't see him play all the games. You still have Umesh Yadav also on the bench. Don't see Ishant play all the games. This was the 6th game. This means another 8 games. Don't see that happening.
Okay.
But it will be good to see if he's utilized. How he's utilized. Because his fitness levels are very important, because he's more a test match bowler. That is another thing which he will also like to keep in mind, because of the last IPL he missed the Australia tour. So he'll have that in mind, because there's a long England tour coming up. So they'll be very picky on when he would be playing.
So in other words, they saw a great deal of importance on this match to have him play. Clearly, this match was very important to both of these sides. Yes, Delhi has lost it, but I haven't changed my thoughts about them. I still think on their day, which could well be the finals, they'll come to the fore. Let's see. I just hope that A.B. de Villiers, which I doubt, I'm sure he's going to bat well every single game he plays, but you still don't know. Some of these batters could peak early. They may have their failure when they need it least. That's the beauty of this game, isn't it?
It's still way too early to be working out, what the table is going to look like. As I said 2 years ago, I think Mumbai Indians lost their first 4 and then won 8 in a row to qualify, and then won the tournament. Literally didn't lose a game. So we're still trying to work out. The pitches are obviously a little bit trickier, it seems, this year. A bit slower, harder to score. The table will start taking shape in the next 4 or 5 games. Anything can still happen. And the beauty of it is that every side's got players that anyone could beat anyone on their day. Rajasthan could beat anyone on their day, even without Archer and Stokes. Hyderabad at bottom. They're nowhere near the worst side in that competition. They've got Rashid Khan, who's probably arguably the best bowler. Warner, Bairstow, Kane Williamson, and they've got Nasser Jaran, they've got Bhuvi Kumar. So there's no way that Sunrisers are the worst side in this competition. So it just shows that if you can just get a bit of a run together, a bit of confidence and a bit of form, that Sunrisers could still finish 4th or 3rd easily. There's such a long way to go.
But unfortunately, Bhubaneswar might not play tomorrow. Still fitness issues. And if they lose that, then that's it. You need to win all 7.
But guys, Siddharth and Naresh, just push Chris aside from that. Chris predicted CSK to come last, so I'm not sure whether his predictions are always that good. So.
I still don't think they'll finish in the top 4.
You reckon?
No, I think I just think I think that they'll peak. I think they're the side that might peak early, and I think they might. I don't think they'll finish in the top 4. Could be wrong.
I actually, you know what? I think that Chris just doesn't like CSK because he's went from they're coming last. Now they're not making the 4. That's very different. You go from being last to not making the 4. Next time, they won't make the top 2, and when they're in the 4, they won't win the match. I'm not having any confidence what Chris is saying about CSK.
In my defence, I predicted them to come last before Rajasthan's best 2 players went home. Rajasthan will come bottom now, I would imagine, just because Archer and Stokes are a huge loss to them. They are. They didn't even come in the top 4 last year, and Archer was MVP. So, that shows how much of an impact he was, and any side in the world would have Ben Stokes. So, I just don't.
You can't change the goalposts. You can't change the goalposts mid-match. Okay, you did say CSK would come last, and I have it on record. And I'm going to use it as many times as I can.
I did. I'm just saying that different sides have had a couple of injuries now, and I've been very impressed with CSK.
The moon's not the right spot. The sun's not the right spot. You said CSK were going to come last, and I've got video to prove it. Period.
I did. Yeah. I did.
Okay.
I've been impressed with CSK. I've been impressed how they're getting the most out of Moeen Ali. And also the evergreen Faf du Plessis has started well. So Deepak Chahar he just takes wickets in 4thers basically. I think he's got 2 4thers in the tournament, hasn't he?
Yes.
In 5 games, he's got 8 wickets in 5 games. So he's got 2 4thers and 3 nonethers.
Sam Curran, the X factor.
Sam Curran is
absolutely. Sam Curran's a massive factor.
So they're getting the best out of their overseas, and it's going to be fair at the start of the tournament. We weren't sure what balance of their side would be. they probably want to get Ngidi in for Dwayne Bravo, who's probably not quite there anymore in terms of where they would want to be. But fair play to them that if they look like they're not the best side on paper by a long stretch, but they've got a very good captain, obviously, and they've got some experience. That's the one thing they have got is some experience. So if they can keep riding the wave, then they might just sneak into the top 4.
So who was the best bowler today from both sides? No answer.
I mean, you'd probably say Ishant Sharma bowled a pretty decent spell. Kyle Jamieson bowled a very good spell apart from his last over. I think he bowled 2 overs for 5 at one point. Actually thought Chalal bowled quite well. He's not been taking many wickets, but he certainly has been looking sharp. So it's hard to be a good bowler when both sides have gone at 9 and over, isn't it? So.
Well, Kyle Jamieson went 3 sixes of his bowling, which is important to note. Daniel Sams, if you're going to open with a bowler to bowl the first overs, why wouldn't you bowl him for the whole 4? Can you explain that to me? Why do we see? I mean, even in other games we've seen, I think Mozon Reeks and even Harbhajan Singh, they've all bowled very early on. In fact, the first over, but they haven't bowled 4. Can someone explain that to me? Why that's the case?
It's often a tactic to try and get rid of an over or 2. If you are maybe not 100% confident, or you're trying to burgle an over while the batsman is still trying to get their eye in, and that's probably RCB have got lots of bowling, and maybe it was just Kohli's didn't think on the day that he went back to his death bowlers. Maybe he wasn't expecting Washington Sundar to bowl 4 overs, but Shermon Hetmeyar and Rishabh Pant came in 2 left-handers, and he decided to bowl Washington Sundar at the lefties. So it's certainly a good thing to have that option there and not use it than not have it there. So I don't think they'll be too worried. It's just one of those things. It's Kohli's call on the day, isn't it, really?
Okay. So, again, I like the concept of sitting down captains before the match and asking them questions what they're going to do in the match and how it pans out. Would you have sat down, say, Kohli, and said, are you bowling Sams for 4 overs today? Or what are you doing with Sams? He's in the side. If you've actually promoted him into the team, what was the plan of bringing Sams into the scene? Was it because of the first 2 overs he was going to bowl, or what? Why bring Sams in the team? He's not going to bowl 4 overs. Do you understand my point? You bring.
He's there as in the all-rounder, bowling all-rounder slot, isn't he? It's like saying, well, Ravi Jadeja is going to bowl 4 every game, but he gets hit 2 overs for 40, and he might not bowl his 4 overs. So it's just having lots of different options, and on the day, or maybe it might have skidded on a bit more than Kohli thought because there were 2 left-handers, or because Chalal bowled well, or whatever it might have been. That he just didn't. I don't think they sit down at the start of the match and say he's bowling 4, he's bowling 4. This is the order. I think they have a very good idea, but it's a fluid. That's why the captains are so good, isn't it? Because they make decisions at times that matter, and maybe Kohli just wanted to go with a Jamieson or a Sundar because of the horses for courses time of the match.
I do look. I'm sorry, having captained myself in these sorts of matches, you do have a plan. You don't go there with no plan. You have an idea how you're going to use the bowlers.
Of course, they have plans.
Well, that was my question, though. Before the match, you ask them what they're going to do. They should have an answer. You can't say, "Oh, we'll see how it goes." No, there's an answer to that.
But you're saying they have rigid plans, and I'm saying they won't have rigid plans. They'll have a plan A, and then they'll have options if plan A doesn't quite fill, if conditions change, or if this batsman, they won't just have this. The guy bowls. They'll have a plan if Rishabh Pant's batting at 10 overs. They'll have a plan if it was Steve Smith. They'll have a plan if it was Shikhar Dhawan. There'll be such different levels of plans. They'll have a plan if it's 2 left-handers batting. They'll have a plan if it's 1 of each. They'll have a plan if it's 2 right-handers. They'll have a plan if they take 5 wickets early. They'll have a plan if they're 0 down. They've got so many different ideas.
Oh my God, how many plans would you get? I mean, that'd drive me nuts. They're going to need a full-time person on the sideline with this plan board.
That's what it is. That's what happens. And maybe today it was just that the way the match went that Kohli went to Sundar and not to Daniel Sams.
Wouldn't it be lovely if you had this big whiteboard on the edge of the rope, and then Abby de Villiers would go running over, not de Villiers, say Kohli would go running over and flip the chart, and we'd all get to see what he's about to do. That'd be fun.
Kolkata Knight Riders are doing that. Those codes that you're seeing, 54, the number, what's that? Maybe RCB can do something like that.
That's an English thing, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's an Owen Morgan. I think they started doing it in South Africa before COVID. They started putting dangling things over the balcony. So if it's KKR, I would imagine. Is it Trevor Bayliss, KKR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Trevor Bayliss is SRH, Sunrisers.
Oh, who's KKR?
KKR is
McCullen.
Brendan.
So the codes, I would imagine, is at Owen Morgan. And I did only because it seems a coincidence that England started doing it when he was captain, and all of a sudden he's captain at KKR, and they're doing similar. So
I find that intriguing because I think it's extremely important that the captain has a full understanding of how they're going to use their bowlers. Because if they don't, they come unstuck, like Pant did today. Let's be honest. There's no way.
Norman, if you take RCB's bowling. Because of the left-handers, Washington Sundar was utilized more. Chahal leg spin would be coming in because both Hetmeyar and Rishabh Pant are very strong towards the mid-wicket square leg area. And same thing with Daniel Sams, a left-arm bowler would be coming in. They would be fancying that kind of bowling towards the mid-wicket. So we have seen Washington Sundar actually not bowling long or full spells earlier. But today it was more to do with the left-handers in the opposition.
Yes.
And when you have this option of 6 bowlers, and Maxwell the 7th, we have not seen him bowl yet. So you do have that flexibility of what. But yes, from the plan perspective, I think the plan is Jamieson and Siraj would bowl their full 4 overs. They are the strike, and then the rest would see how they plan out as far as the conditions.
And Naresh, if you have to look at it, Kohli actually has done his homework on Hetmeyar. In the ODIs that West Indies came here about a couple of years back, he operated with Kuldeep and Chahal, but they both got hit out of the park by Hetmeyar in the first 3-4 ODIs. So he said, okay, let's get an off spinner in. And the plan worked. The same for Pant. As I said, they mixed their lengths brilliantly to Pant. That's why he didn't hit a single 6 in the entire match. So,
and if you see the last half of the last over of Siraj, it was wide outside off stump. He got 2 4s, but it was difficult to hit a 6.
Yeah. So the length. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Xtra Patel, I want to finish on him. His performance today. Could he have bowled the last over? Should he have bowled the last over?
No. The last time he did bowl a last over. MS Dhoni hit him for 2 6s and 2 balls. The last 2 balls, 12 and he hit of 2 6s. Nah,
he'd already pulled out. So he didn't have any overs left. Xtra Patel, he'd finished.
Yeah, what a game! Really, there's a lot of inconclusions in our discussion, uncertainties in our discussion. Yes, RCB won and deserved to be in the top 3. Delhi Capitals lost, but they also deserve to be in the top 3. You can't really distinguish the two of them. Yes, CSK are there, and we always are fearful of Mumbai Indians. But I tell you what, this year, I really think Mumbai Indians have got to get their act together pretty damn quick. Because you say it's too early. I don't think it's so. I think it's starting to run out. The next 2 games for Mumbai Indians, they better win them or go close to at least winning 1. Because if they slip, they could well see themselves unable to make at least the top 3, maybe even the top 4. That's my concern. All right.
They're still game. 4th, though. They've got a game in hand on the 2 sides below them, and they're still 4th. So, they're not. It seems to me that the top 3 are running away with it a little bit. There's a 2-win gap between 3rd and 4th. Yeah. So, it looks like probably the top 3. Chennai even there. So, but I think Mumbai have Rajasthan tomorrow, don't they? So,
hang on.
Thursday.
Hang on.
Thursday is a double header.
You split 4 Challengers. The Kings were to come last. Now you said they wouldn't make the top 4. Now you're actually including them in the top 3.
No, I'm saying they're in the top 3 at the moment, and there is a 2-win gap. So for the sides below to catch up, it looks like they need to go on a run, but they've been, their net run rate is really good as well, and that's
Yes.
like an extra win at the end. Coming into the last couple of games, net run rate is, and they talk about it a lot early on. Why are they trying to win it in 15 overs, not 20? Well, because in the last game, that's an extra point, isn't it? So,
CSK's run rate is absolutely outrageous. 1.6. No one's even close. Not even close. All right, last question before we leave. Let's answer this question. Who can read it? Naresh, can you read it?
Yeah. For CSK not to finish in top 4, they need to start losing from tomorrow itself. Yeah, that's what we discussed. CSK. Yeah, one, obviously the net run rate benefit they already have. So, even if they lose couple of games, wouldn't actually hurt them that much.
That says it all.
We're
going to finish on that note. We're not going to allow any more discussion because CSK are in the top 4, and so be it. We're going to be. This is all the more exciting. I'm still really. That was a magnificent game, in my opinion. We'll get Chris back in a second. I'm going to say goodbye. This is Norman Koshnik from Extra Time saying thank you to Siddharth and Naresh. Hopefully, Chris comes on now as well. We've had a great time. We're going overtime here, so I think it's been wonderful. Let's get back and join each other very soon. I'm not sure whether Chris is coming back. Is Chris coming back? All right, we might leave it at that, guys. Thank you very much. We'll say goodbye to Chris.
Thank you, Norman.
Bye-bye, Siddharth. All the best, guys.
Good night,
Norman,
Naresh.
Good night.